First of all, let me express my deep appreciation and high personal regard, affection, and admiration to you, Maryam Rajavi, for your inspirational leadership. A remarkable leader. To my colleagues on the dais and those with whom I've attended similar meetings, I'm honored to join you in the collective effort to support both the dreams and the aspirations and the freedom of the people of Camp Ashraf. To all of you assembled here, and to those who have assembled in similar fora around the world, around the globe, actually, you keep hope alive. I congratulate you and I thank you. To my President Obama, I appeal on the following grounds. America has a value system embodied in the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution of the United States. We have a brand. It's about values. And one of the values must be that we keep our word that we give to innocent, persecuted individuals around the world. And we had 3,400 men and women in Camp Ashraf who we met with individually, determined they were not terrorists, and said, "We will protect you." We must keep our word. Our credibility is at stake. President Obama, our values are at stake. Your leadership is at stake. Delist the MAK and provide them the protection that we guaranteed them almost 7 years ago. Time is running out. We applauded the Arab Spring, but most of the world has ignored the Persian Spring. While Western democracies have held a long fixed stare across events in the Middle East and North Africa, we continue to watch the painfully slow outrage of the Western world when it comes to Iran and its continuing oppression, derision, and false campaign against the people of the MEK. It has been particularly painful for me as an American citizen to observe the indecision and the delay within this administration when they have been besieged by Republicans and Democrats, liberals and conservatives, military leaders who have served administrations of both political parties who have said, these individuals are not terrorists. The organization that should be on the FTO is the Iranian regime itself. Those are the terrorists. Those of us who have joined in the effort to see the MEK delisted feel strongly joined to one another. We will usually find common bonds when it concerns the rights and freedoms of our fellow man. As we meet today in Brussels, we can easily point to human rights charters and documents throughout free lands, including that of the European Union Charter of Fundamental Rights, in which civil, political, economic, and social rights are addressed. Specifically in that charter, rights are divided into sections: dignity, freedom, equality, solidarity, citizens' rights, and justice. And yet, just as those who author such documents know, and just as you and I know, dignity, freedom, equality, solidarity, citizens' rights, and justice are never truly divided. They commingle. They are interconnected. They are interdependent. They are bound into one full expression of human rights accorded each and every man and woman and child in free societies. Iran is the foreign terrorist organization. Iran is the one that's destabilizing the Middle East. Iran is the leading proponent of terrorism around the globe. Last week, the world learned that Iran had been engaged in a terrorist plot against the Saudi government, against the Saudi ambassador to the U.S., and designed to be carried out on United States soil. How audacious. And how are we considering a response in the United States? There is chatter about more sanctions. Well, I will give you, Mr. President, an idea that will send a signal to the Iranian government, and for that matter, the Iraqi government, that we will not tolerate those kinds of plots directed at our allies to be delivered on American soil. I'll give you an idea. Delist the MEK and give them the protection you promised them years and years ago. Just a couple of weeks before, we watched as Western diplomats departed the UN Assembly, as Ahmadinejad chose to once again deny the events of 9/11 that occurred in my country, as he has done in the past with the Holocaust. Accusations that continue to demonstrate that he is, and the mullahs, are morally, ethically, and democratically out of step in the world in which they live. The world would be a much better place. The world would be a much safer place if someone like, let's say, Marian Rajavi represented the Iranian people at the next General Assembly session of the United Nations. For years, we have tried to negotiate with Iran, and we negotiate, and while we negotiate, they imprison, they torture, and they murder. We negotiate, yet they continue to move inexorably toward a non-peaceful nuclear capability. We negotiate, yet Iran's foreign minister publicly applauded the most recent Camp Ashraf massacre. Iran's agenda is about disruption, destabilization, disharmony, and death. If my country is concerned about the innocent civilians in Libya and the city of Benghazi, we should be equally even more concerned about the innocent civilians at Camp Ashraf, because they surrendered our weapons to us, and we promised to protect them. It's time we delist them and provide them the protection we promised many years ago. We will never affect a change in this rogue nation's behavior or goals. It's impossible to think we can negotiate with this group. Regime change is our only hope of ever seeing a democratic Iran. And that potential for democracy rests within an opposition group pledged to democratic reform, one that has endured massive genocidal murders for decades, the MEK. It is time to heed the calls for delisting. It is time to move to action. In my country, the American people know that we'll always find strength in multilateral partners, in the European Union, in NATO, in the United Nations, in our true friends and allies, in a true culture of cooperation. And that, on this issue, is extremely important. Because we know that any affront to life and liberty requires a swift and global response. It is not always easy, this whole notion of collective agreement, particularly when all these countries must attend to their own best interest. Gathering with one voice on any issue does have its challenges. But on the issue of terror against free people, innocent people, on issues that offend the Western world's collective value for human life and the rule of law, on those issues, we know that we can and we must unite. The Iranians are on the wrong side of history. We must assure that. We know that the will of the MEK has been tested by murder, oppression, and terror. Tested, but unbelievably never, ever broken. Tested, but unbelievably still as strong today as it's been for decades. All of us must continue to be just as strong. We must be strong in volume and in will and in clarity. It has been said in times of moral crisis, there is no place for neutrality. One must take a stand. One must speak out. And actually, not one, but many. This is no time for indecisiveness, neutrality, or inaction. We know that great powers can work together to do great things. It will be our mutual commitment to our cause that will help us achieve our mutual goal, the delisting of the MEK, the full and respected invitation to the MEK into the family of free peoples. Ladies and gentlemen, every day as I serve my country in the White House and as Secretary of Homeland Security, I got a list of terrorist threats directed at my country, either at home or around the world, every day. Not once, not on a single occasion, that I ever see a threat directed to America, my fellow citizens, or our global interest directed by the MEK. They are clearly not a terrorist organization. Other courts have said they're not a terrorist organization. The UK said it is perverse that they are listed as a terrorist organization. The District Court of Appeals in the United States, in Washington, D.C., said there is no evidence at all. Ladies and gentlemen, there is none, there has been none, there never will be any evidence that this group of men and women, Democrats, looking for a peaceful, non-nuclear, tolerant, proud Persian country, the rich history and culture. That's what the MEK is all about. It's about freedom. So I say to my president, we are inclined, our leaders are inclined to go around the world talking about human values, talking about America's value system, talking about human rights and dignity and freedom and democracy. But I say, Mr. President, actions speak louder than words. The Court of Appeals said almost 18 months ago that it's about time that you came forth to show evidence that this group of individuals should continue to be on the State Department's Foreign Terrorist Organization watch list. There's been no response from the Department of State. We know what the response should be. The law is very clear. Time is running out for these people, Mr. President. As my friend and colleague Howard Dean has pointed out, as the annals of history are written, we want America to be on the side of the men and women of the people of Camp Ashraf. So I appeal to my president. One of his colleagues inside the White House said, sometimes the president chooses to lead from behind. Well, my appeal to you, Mr. President, is lead from the front. Lead from the front, delist, protect, and make sure that our word is our bond. It's not only about the people of Camp Ashraf, it's about our credibility, the United States. And when you delist the MEK and you provide them the protection and you lead from the front, the world will applaud, and perhaps, just perhaps, the regime change we've longed for, the world has longed for in Iran, will occur under the direction and the leadership of the men and women we free with the MEK. Thank you very much.